Direct and Save, the jewelry exchange in Redwood City.
Welcome back to Beyond the Headlines. I'm Cheryl Jennings. A 2010 study out of UC Davis finds that women are still not reaching the same status level as men in business. Women make up nearly 40% of MBA students at California business schools these days, but the study finds that women account for only 8% of the top corporate executives in the state.
Once you reach the highest levels of the firm, your chances of making an appointment to the board is roughly the same for men and women. So most of the action in terms of discrimination, whether it's intentional or otherwise, is happening lower in the organization.
The Bay Area overall had the highest percentage of women in top leadership positions. And here is more from my recent conversation with Congresswoman Jackie Speier.
As we look at the political sphere, the United States ranks 59th in the world in the number of women in leadership positions. We represent about 17% of those that serve in Congress. Now, I mean, that is a startling figure. And this last election cycle, 3 fewer women are now serving in Congress. The first time that we have seen an actual decrease in the number of women serving in Congress. And we're still just not even 20%. We see it in state legislatures, we see it in city councils now, and in boards of supervisors. The numbers are not increasing. They're either stagnating or decreasing.
Is it a fear factor?
I don't know if it's a fear factor. Some suggest that it's an intensity factor, that there's not the same intensity. And yet, women of our age and position should be maximizing the opportunities for young women. And I guess I'm calling out to the women in their 50s and older to really recognize a deep and important responsibility to femtor young women.
You have made some very powerful comments about the military and what's happening with female soldiers, and they're at risk now of their own personal safety.
I was so astonished when I got to Congress, and here's a good example of why we need more women in Congress. There have been 18 hearings and studies in the last 16 years looking at the issue of rape in the military, and nothing has changed. So recently, an organization has filed a lawsuit in civilian court to address the issue, and 17 women and a number of men have come forward to be the plaintiffs in the class action. And I feel so strongly about this issue that if we don't fix this, then it's more than shame on America. 19,000 women, mostly women, are raped every year in the military. 19,000. More likely to be injured by a fellow soldier than being killed by military enemies. And only 13% actually report. And that's because they're basically told that it's not going to be taken beyond the command level, because you have to first report it to the command, and then the command makes a decision as to whether or not it's reported to military court system. So it reflects poorly on the command if they have rapes going on under their noses, so they don't report.
There are some other issues that you touched on briefly, young women and health and health care. I know that's a big concern to you as well.
We've had a huge battle in just the recent months over funding of family planning, and specifically Planned Parenthood. And the continuing resolution was held hostage, really, and we were going to shut the government down when it was exposed that the one issue, the one sticking point, was defunding Planned Parenthood, where the president said, "That's my line in the sand." Then the female senators stood up and said, "That's my line in the sand." What's interesting about this issue is for every dollar spent on family planning, you save $4. So a very strong argument can be made that by defunding Planned Parenthood, you're actually adding to the deficit. And important to note that President Richard Nixon signed the family planning law. back in the early 70s.
A Republican.
A Republican. And George Bush, the 41st president, was a big proponent of family planning. So this effort to defund Planned Parenthood because they offer abortion services is irrelevant, because this money can only be spent on family planning services. And by the way, abortion is still legal in this country.
Congresswoman Jackie Speier will be attending the PBWC conference May 10th at the Moscone Center.